Hello, crypto boys and ghouls, and welcome back to the channel, Tales from the Cryptmancer, where we feature content on play and earn games on the blockchain, such as Splinterlands. And in today's video, I wanted to just provide you with some quick last-minute land tips. Are you prepared? These are some tips that may help you as you deploy your land. Some of these tips will be for individuals with, applicable for all landowners, and some of these tips will be more focused on those who have large amounts of land to process. So let's hop into some of these tips and tricks, and hopefully one of these will be helpful, at least in this list, that you may not have thought of. The first thing I want to talk about when it comes to land preparation for launch of Land 1.5 tomorrow is make sure if you have totems that you go ahead and claim those. To claim those totems, you're going to want to go into your items and other tab. And here, if you have a totem on or in the game, actually, you're going to click here and go, there'll be an option once land is released called redeem. When you're able to redeem your totem claim, you'll then be able to transfer that claim into an actual totem, which you can then place on land. Remember, you'll need to do that before you can place a totem on land, so just be aware of that. Additionally, when you come in and first want to start deploying your land, unless you have lots of Rooney, you're going to need to stake DEC on your land. So to do that, make sure you appropriately within the land section of the game, stake your DEC onto the region specifically where you have the DEC requirements for staking. If you have land in multiple regions, you will need to stake DEC accordingly in the different regions depending on the cards that you're planning on placing on land plots in each of those regions, so be aware of that. A couple other things. Obviously, you want to have canceled any of your rentals in advance if you plan on using those cards on land instead of renting. That should have been done ideally in advance here, so you don't have any cooldowns to worry about. Additionally, you would want to have also combined your cards where appropriate for land in advance of deploying land workers on your plots. Now, this next tip is something you may consider, especially if you have multiple plots where you have lots of cards to sort through. Pretty much any cards that you're not going to be staking on land on your account, you may want to temporarily delegate them to an alt account. Why would you do this? Well, if you've delegated your cards to an alt account, they're not going to show up on the selection screen for when you're deploying land. So that means only your cards that you own on your account will show up in that screen, and that will make selection easier for you when you process your land initially. The next thing to be aware of as a tip or a trick, time crystals. Time crystals are your friend, especially if there are benefits for you to farm things like SPS, grain, or research tokens right out of the gate. Remember, the cost of time crystals is going to basically be the same cost as the grain costs that you would require to clear your plots of land. Keep that in mind. Sometimes time is of the essence, and time crystals may be your best friend. Make sure you do your calculations of grain costs for harvesting and clearing your land in advance. Compare that to time crystals, and you might be surprised with what you find there. One other thing to note as it pertains to land, when you first set up your land, if you don't have building in a box, right, you are going to require power cores for your land at 5,000 DEC per plot of land that doesn't have building in a box. As such, make sure you have DEC on your account to buy those power cores, as those will be a requirement for your land deployment. And this last tip here for you is really for those that have a large amount of plots of land to basically deploy to initially. Whether you have a tract or a region or somewhere in between there, you're going to want to make sure your account has delegated hive power, enough for you to do multiple transactions. We're talking like dozens upon dozens, even perhaps hundreds or more transactions in a short order of time. As such, you're going to want to have resource credits or hive power allocated to your account in advance so that you can process your transactions in the game and continue to deploy on your land. Especially is relevant if you're using an alt account that may not have a lot of resource credits or hive power. Make sure you charge that up in advance of land deployment if you're going to plan on, activating perhaps dozens or hundreds or more plots of land on day one. So there you go, some quick tips and tricks to be aware of. Hopefully some of these have been helpful. If you were not aware of them, hopefully it makes land deployment for you on day one seamless and easy. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Until next time, keep stacking those stats.